started working with her all the way through that. And actually, she already has tripled what she was making that point. And it's just setting simple principles in fashion. And now she actually says, she sent me a message about a week and a half ago. I was at a conference getting ready to talk. And as I was going in, I got a text from her and it was just these happy emojis. And she said,
welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Tiffany Digiuseppe, the founder of Med Spa Success. She spent over 26 years in medical practice development, and today she owns multiple med spas and a day spa, which keeps her closely connected to the real challenges owners face every day. Through Med Spa Success, she's developed systems like the Powerful Process and ScaleX Accelerator to help owners streamline operations, grow with confidence, imply dynamic membership models, and create lasting impact in their communities, ultimately having all the internal gears to be successful. Her heart is in raising the bar for the med spa industry and empowering owners to achieve success without losing sight of their purpose. So Tiffany, welcome and glad to have you here.
thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how did you get interested in the aesthetics industry?
So my background actually, I would work with physicians when they graduated med school, and I would open their practices for them. So there was a lot of enjoyment in helping others succeed. Definitely kind of filled my heart. But through that process, I had opened dermatology clinics, cardiology clinics, aesthetics. It went across the board, right? And I was able to kind of pinpoint what I really loved, what was the funnest time out of all of that. What did I really connect with? Other than just seeing their success, I'd work with them for about 3 years, make sure they were debt-free, hire an entire team, make sure everyone was trained, and then I would kind of wash my hands and move on to the next clinic or next practice. And then all of a sudden a little light bulb went off and I said, why am I not doing this for myself? That was my aha moment. And so that is when I really dug deep and said, I really love the aesthetic industry because it was challenging. It was unlike any other industry of medicine that I had worked in, where I dealt with a different client population. Clients were going to come into aesthetics strictly because they wanted to be there, not because they had to be there. So the diversity of working with building so many clinics, it really showed me what I was passionate about in that. And there is a dynamic shift when you're dealing with, people aren't in pain, they're not sick, they're not worried they're going to die. They're strictly coming to see you because they want to. And that represents its own challenges that I think a lot of spa owners, med spa owners are seeing in today's world, especially with so many med spas opening, is what makes them different, right? I had to work extra hard to make sure that the practices were solid, and that the client flow was there and reoccurring revenue. It wasn't insurance based. It just set a lot of different dynamic, and I appreciated the challenge.
Got it. Now, I'm curious about your journey as far as you building up your practices in the day spa. I mean, obviously you have the background in building it, so you can talk about why not just do it for yourself. So what was that journey like as far as you setting it up on your own? Was it pretty much just you were kind of giving yourself your own advice and it was pretty smooth in that sense? Or like, what was that journey all about?
No, there was nothing smooth about it. I
Business,
had the passion for it. I had the desire for it, but then it took on a whole nother element when I was doing something for myself versus doing it for somebody else. I think when you're doing it for somebody else, there's a different level of attachment, right? You're attached to their success, but you're helping them climb the ladder and watching them hit these bullet points of what their goals may be. What did they have in a vision for their business? And it's easy to follow and guide someone through that. When I flipped the cards and decided to do it on my own, it came with a whole stream of those challenges, because then I wasn't helping somebody achieve their goals. I was actually starting with a blank slate. And I had taken all the years of experience that I had in building multi-million-dollar clinics. And I said, okay, now I want to build a powerhouse for aesthetics. I want something different. I want to think outside of the box. I'm not going to be offering everything that med spas offer. So after so many years of working with physicians in specialties, I took this on as more of a specialty in my vision. So I actually, two of the med spas that I own, believe it or not, we actually don't even do a single injectable in those clinics.
Wow.
And we make multiple seven figures, right? So when I took that approach, one of them was actually the first clinic I opened for myself. And I just wanted to do non-surgical body contouring. It was relatable for me. I knew who my ideal client was. I knew where there was a space that could be filled. And I said, I am going to be known as the body contouring facility. So I honed in to a specialty because, in medicine, it's like you get used to, and I think a lot of us see this in the med spa industry. Everybody says, well, if you open a med spa, you obviously you do Botox, you do lasers, it's going to be a spectrum, right? I didn't approach it that way. And this is the framework that I go through working with so many clinics in the development phases is how do you set yourself aside from that? How are you different in the med spa industry? And for me, it was taking it like a specialty. I didn't want to offer everything. I wanted to be the dermatologist, the cardiologist, the neurologist. I didn't want to be the family practitioner that kind of took everything in. So that was really how I diversified my setting. And yeah, it came with a lot of challenges. People ask me all the time, well, how on earth did you build a reoccurring revenue stream in a practice that just does body contouring? Right? So people aren't coming to see me every 3 months for Botox. I don't do their filler every year. They come and they want their tummy changed after they've had babies, or they want to feel good in their skin again, or people worry about their arms at a certain age. So they would come and see me and I'll fix that problem and then they're done. Okay. And the goal is that I make them happy and they want to be done with that. Yeah. So to achieve my goal and their goal, I had to get really strategic in how do you build reoccurring membership models? How do I keep engagement with people who come in here with one idea and build years worth of relationships with them when they don't need me every 3 months, or want me, I guess, every 3 months when they start to see their 11s pop up or they want their lips done for a show,
Wow.
So yeah, it's just, it came with its own tribulations and it changes. That's the thing about the industry.
Now, yeah, oh yeah, I mean, it's business. So business,
yeah.
it's never easy and it's never a straightforward path.
No.
Now, what you do for other businesses and also for your own, I mentioned in the introduction, the powerful process and the ScaleX Accelerator. What are those?
So those are the exact frameworks that I have set. When I opened my first practice, I definitely hit some roadblocks and I had my times of sitting down. I remember endless nights going over payroll and stressing because another clinic opened right down the road, or wondering, what my competitors were doing, or feeling like I had to be in the rat race of, oh, they're discounting, so how am I even going to meet their cost on that? And I hit a wall where I said, okay, I'm done with that. And what does it look like to make that shift? And that's where I developed this entire framework. And basically it takes practices through really setting the entire foundation. So you know who you are, you develop that specialty, you become known from it. And each letter of powerful takes them through a different process in that framework so that they're building a real solid structure. And then ScaleX Accelerator is how do we potentially 10x our revenue? How do we set those high goals? And what does it look like to actually have to achieve those? You've got to think outside the box. So I apply very strategic models to the practices and the clinics and really help them hit all those benchmarks, open multiple locations, exit strategies, deal with the whole spectrum around it, while also, there's no limit in the med spa industry. If you want to be a one and done mom and pop shop, you can be very successful at that. And that's what a lot of people's vision is. If you want to take over a lot of these private equity places, then you can still do that and own multiple locations like I do. But the framework is really what takes them through that. And it is extremely moving. And I've used it from when I hit that wall in my first clinic, and now I've opened multiple clinics using it. And it's kind of a cookie cutter process. It's pretty bulletproof if you follow the steps. So that's what I've done, is really created something outside of the norm.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's say someone is opening up their med spa for the first time. What advice would you give to that person who's just getting started?
Oh, okay. So the first part of advice is don't just go throw a whole bunch of money into marketing. I think, all the time, there's a lot of issues that I know owners go through, all the way from team dynamic, how to build cultures in the clinic, how do you get good, reliable staff. But I constantly hear, I market all the time, my leads suck, or I can't get the clientele, or these people are too cheap. And I would say, number one, understand how to add value and be the most expensive. You're going to pick your clientele straight out the door. I am the most expensive for any of the procedures that out of any clinics I've ever heard of or worked with, and people fly into my clinics to have these procedures done.
Wow.
So a lot of it is I've learned how to put the value behind that. And what does that look like? It's different for every clinic. And that's where you need a personalized approach in your own clinic. But before you're throwing money at trying to just get all of the marketing and the leads, and you really need to know who your ideal client is. Who are you trying to talk to? Because everyone that I work with, I tell them there's a difference in marketing and messaging. Mm. And oftentimes marketing is very successful done the right way. But if you don't give preciseness to your marketing team, they're just throwing darts for you and they're hoping something hits. But when you're precise and you understand your clientele, you can all of a sudden have your marketing team directly messaging with your ideal client. So it resonates. Instead of trying to talk to everybody, you are actually talking to a specific person. And that is where you start to build a culture. You build a culture of clientele. You build your staff culture. People know where they belong. They seek you out because they know you understand them. You're talking to their pain points or what they want. So there's a lot that I could tell people if they're just opening, because I think that that's the most beautiful phase. And you either have the opportunity to do it right from the beginning, or you can be like me and so many other med spa owners where you do it and you're like, uh-oh, okay, what am I doing now? And there's pain points in it, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely think that reoccurring income, if you can start out navigating that path early on, it serves well. My membership programs that I have in place cover all of my overhead, all of my payroll, all of everything else that comes in, and all of my new clients are basically just feeding the fire. They're adding fuel, but I don't need them. So if I have a dead month or a season, I don't have to worry about it. When I closed for COVID, I didn't have to worry about it. I had so many people calling me, freaking out, and it's real. We all went through a huge transition during the pandemic. But there's ways to navigate that stuff preemptively that will make it a lot easier if you hit those hardships.
Now, should people come to you before they open up their practice, or if they already have the practice opened up, is that where most of the people come to you for help?
Most of them do. They already have the practices opened up, and in a perfect world, they would come to me before they opened. But I think that aesthetics is an interesting thing, because a lot of the aesthetic clinics I work with, maybe they're nurses and they have just gotten burnt out in traditional medicine, right? They're ready to take on something fun that is a feel good. The clients are there because they want to be there now. And so they enjoy that phase and they're ready for the next element. And they're good at injectables, or they can pop in. And a lot of them will just start off like renting a room or on a small scale. And they don't see the need for proper structure in the beginning. But ultimately, if they started it then, they would set themselves up to excel so much quicker and really take a lot of the burnout off the plate. And most people will look at our program and say, okay, I'm burnout. I can't do this anymore. Or they feel like they've hit some form of failure or struggle. And then they start to learn to reach out for some kind of mentorship or guidance. And if they can do it before that, it just makes life a lot easier. But
they have to go through that pain first.
Yeah. But I honestly wouldn't say there's a right or a wrong. I think it's just going to be different for everybody. If you're someone like myself and so many offices that I work with, you're going to go through the pain before you realized you really needed help in the beginning. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's still a lot of potential, and we get practices turned around really quick So it's just what they're willing to put into it. If they want to do the work, we give them the path. I walk hand in hand with them. I give them the structure, lead them through every single part of it, and we really nurture them. Get their sales up, get their marketing in place, get their ideal client situated, teach them how to stand out in an industry that's super saturated, and then it doesn't take long for the cards to flip the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the most common misconceptions are out there about getting into this industry? I mean, I've heard some people think, oh, it's really lucrative, so might as well get into it. But like, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you've seen?
I would say that's definitely one of them. Everybody thinks it's very lucrative until they see their neighbor open up doing the same thing, and they start to understand that it is a very expensive industry to be in. I think that it's one of those live and learn kind of things when it comes to that. But I do feel like that's part where people choose to get into the industry. And I also think it's a fun industry. Let's admit it. Everything's shiny, right? It's bright, it's pretty. Technology is always improving and changing, and it's exciting. And there's always something for people like myself who like constant growth. You will always have it in the aesthetic industry. It's rapidly growing. So I think that that is enticing for a lot of people. But when it comes to the lucrative portion, I think there is a very hard surprise that tends to hit once you get out the door.
Okay. And for the people that are trying to grow their practice, I believe the two biggest issues that most business owners and even practice owners run into is how do you hire good people and how do you get clients? I'm not sure if you would agree with those being kind of the two biggest issues. But if you do, like, how are some of those, and you kind of talked a little bit like having the right marketing, the right messaging in place, but what are some things that the practice owners can be aware of how to overcome those? Because I think some of them just try by trial and error, kind of like as you mentioned, and then they go through the pain points. But what are some things they need to be aware of when it comes to hiring and getting clients?
Yeah. Well, your team is a direct reflection of your leadership, right? So I think that, and I work with a lot of people, that is a constant, just nearly, I think, every practice that I've worked with, unless they're a solo injector kind of getting off the ground. But if they're established, one of the pain points is always, how do my staff, it's chaotic. And I'm very brutally honest. We're not all the best at everything. And oftentimes, if you have the chaotic staff in there, they're following leadership. Does your staff know where they're going? Do they know what the mission of your vision is, and your vision? Do they understand your core values? Do you know their love languages? How do you keep your staff motivated? What are the long-term goals? It's a culture that you are building with staff. And if you don't know how to build a culture, you will always struggle with it. I did. So it's something that I think we have to stay up to tune with. Staff takes effort. It takes energy. And you've got to line everything up in order to do it right and keep a healthy culture. And I'll say it just like so many experienced business owners, you hire slow and you fire quick. Your culture is, you protect it, right? So once my staff has been with me for years. The most recent team I hired was about a year ago when I opened another day spa. I opened a luxury retreat center, and I have not hired anybody in over a year. So I've had people move states to work with me. I had a clinic in California, and then when I had sold that out, moved up, opened a different clinic in Medford. I had people leave California to come work for me in Medford, and they're still with me 7-8 years later. I will tell you that it is possible having a good team culture, and there's always going to be change and shift, right? You can have your best team player get pregnant. They have babies, they don't want to come back to work, or there's really unfortunate circumstances where there might be a health aspect that comes into play. And having a system in place where they're replaceable in that fashion is really what it takes. And there's so many people who don't have a system. And just at the end of last year, I had one of the clinics I work with up in Washington. She lost one of her high revenue injectors, and she was freaking out. It was right before the holidays. And she said, what am I going to do? So I said, look, we've already dialed this out. You've never had to use it, but you already have a system in place. So here we go. Let's go back to the system. And I drew it all out because we had worked with her and developed everything. So I said, now is the time and the place to use this. So within 3 weeks, she had already replaced that injector with higher performance. And you just have to be ready and prepared to deal with it. But I would say a big part of it is protecting your culture, and everybody wants to feel needed, right? So there is an aspect when you're building that culture, if you know your mission, your vision, your core values, before you even hire them, do they align with that? You don't just hire somebody because their qualifications on a resume. We can usually teach technique, but we can't teach culture. So it's a big part that I focus with a lot of clinics on. And it does make a big difference if you can get that mentality of it down.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you put so much emphasis on culture, because it is really critical. I mean, you think about all the big successful companies, they have culture, they have core values, and they have those systems in place that go along with that. And it's not something that people think about. Like when you open up a business, it's like, okay, I have my business plan, I have my location, I have all my tools, but there's no check mark of culture. Like,
exactly.
it's not something like, oh, I need to get my culture. Like no one ever thinks about that, but it's so critical, just like you said. So now, and that kind of segues into this next question. What do you think is some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they start a med spa?
Oh, number one, they go way too in debt. We're in a shiny industry. So what will happen oftentimes is they think, oh, I need this laser. They overstock product. There's just way too much money that goes out the door. And then they get into a starvation mode. They open their doors and they're thinking they're going to be flooded with clients. And that's not necessarily how it works. So they're misled when they open, and then they open and they're in a survival mode where they're desperate for clients because now they have thousands of dollars going out in equipment and machines. And the biggest problem is most of them, when they open, have not even understood or laid out who their ideal client is. So half of the time they've invested a couple $100,000 into equipment that doesn't even align with their ideal client that they end up serving. And I see it all the time. It becomes a rack where they're just piling equipment on top of it. So I teach people right from the get-go. We lay the foundation with all the practices I work with. I don't care if they've been open 10 years. We got to know your mission. We got to know your purpose. We got to know your core values, and we got to know your vision. Where do you want to go? With that comes who's your ideal client. And then from those phases is when we start picking out services. What is your ideal client's problems? What are their needs? How do you serve them? Why would they want to see you? And oftentimes it could have saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just from aligning things right from the beginning. So yeah, there is a big problem of that. And there's a difference when life tastes different when you feel like you have to have something. So when they open and they're starving and they're counting bills every single day and they're worried about their $3,000 laser payment that comes out this week and then the next one in a couple of weeks, that's when people get desperate. And with desperacy, we don't make the best decisions. So I think if strategically it's planned and mapped out right, you can go into it with confidence instead of desperacy. And when you're confident, it's very attractive. The clients want to come to you. You're not desperate for them. You don't need to run promos. You don't need to discount your value to service them. And then you're actually more desirable.
Now, how do you define success in this industry?
So that can come in a lot of different forms. And I think that ultimately it really depends when you get down to success. What is that practice's vision? I think in my book, success means that you've conquered what your purpose is and what your vision is for your business. So a lot of it, oftentimes, if we're just talking about the monetary part, I think having memberships that cover all of your overhead, there's a huge piece that comes with that. That brings a level of success to people when they feel themselves hit that. They're sleeping and money's coming in because they've built great reoccurring revenue systems. For other people, it's success and feeling like they're serving other people. So I think there's definitely different levels of that, and it looks different for everyone. And that's what we really do. Med spa success is really formed around individualizing each clinic. So it definitely looks different with everyone that I work with. I can tell you what levels of success would mean within my clinic, but that's not going to necessarily be the same for somebody else. But I definitely think it's, peace is success. Not freaking out, not being stressed about something, not being burnt out, but having time with your family is success. Doing what you love is success. So it just comes in a lot of different forms.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up as far as it's different for everybody. But you still need to have the right mindset about it. Because I think most business owners, I think most of them never feel like they're successful, no matter what goal they hit. They hit the goal, and like, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? And they keep going and keep going. But I think that's part of being a business owner as well. But I think it's also important to take a step back, think through what does success really mean to them.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of updating your vision,
Mm,
right? So I teach our clinics to every year they review their vision. And it might sound stupid, but it's very dynamic because when you open your practice, your vision and your dreams of where you want to go, you should already be starting to accomplish them within a couple of years, right? So if you just stay there, you're not creating new for yourself. And that's where success starts to die off. And that's where people just get burnt out. They get tired of it. But if you keep your vision up to date and you reevaluate it, it's kind of like a milestone marker. My vision for it and my mission is what I'm doing right now to get to that vision that I have. And so I hit that vision. Well, then what's next?
mm.
And if you're not taking into account that you should be setting new markers for yourself, there should be new milestones. And then I think that success keeps unfolding. And that's where people hit abundance, really.
Great way of putting it. Now,
Mhm.
I'm sure that you've come across some very challenging cases or businesses in very tough, dire straits that you've worked with. Is there maybe one story that really comes to mind about just a really, really tough case and how you were able to help them turn it around and become successful?
Yeah. So I had to put a lot of thought into this because ultimately, all of them, I think their struggles are significant. And I take them personally because we're helping them work through it. And I have yet to ever meet a clinic, including my own, that hasn't run into pretty significant struggles. But I have had people call me. I had a nurse call me a couple months ago because she said, I'm ready. Do you want to buy my practice? I don't want to do this anymore. She said, I should have just stayed in regular medicine. I'm not a business owner.
Mm,
And she couldn't even actually introduce herself as a business owner. And I took her all the way back to square one. I said, hold on a minute. Let me put you through the powerful process and let's start from the ground up here. Started working with her all the way through that. And actually, she already has tripled what she was making that point. And it's just setting simple principles in fashion. And now she actually says, she sent me a message about a week and a half ago. I was at a conference getting ready to talk. And as I was going in, I got a text from her and it was just these happy emojis. And she said, for the first time, I feel proud of my business. This feels so good. Right. And a lot of it is because we don't have a roadmap. There's so many people out there that will tell you how to run a business. And a lot of the dynamic is it's transferable among industries, but there's some stuff that just isn't. And I think that is the really neat thing about working with someone who owns a med spa. And as many times as I've thought about, I sold a couple of my clinics, but I still have a handful of them. And a lot of the reason I keep them is because I want to live in that pool with them. I want to know what challenges are currently occurring in the med spa industry. I want to know what it's like to negotiate these different things as a med spa owner. So I swim in that same pond. And I tell people, don't take marriage advice from somebody who's not married. Right. And so it kind of it's interchangeable. And even though I had done practice development for so many years, opening a med spa had its own roadblocks that I would not have known just in business development until I was actually in the nitty gritty of it. So I see a lot of practices go through that. I've had people call me just frustrated to no end with their marketing and their leads. They think things aren't processing right, but they don't have systems in place to even, I hear all the time, well, the websites are dead. Nobody, and I'm like, no, if your website's dead, something's wrong, you know? One of my clients a few months ago, we went through because she was one of those, my website's dead. Nobody's coming off of my website. I looked at it and it was not even talking to her ideal client. It was just a generalized website, right?
mm,
So I said, hold on a minute, let's change your headline on your main page to speak straight to your ideal client and let's watch what happens. And within a month, she had a 42% conversion rate increase.
wow.
So there's some really powerful steps that people just feel defeated with, right? It's a trying industry. I had somebody else open or call last year because they were in a shopping center and they could see a competitor of theirs was opening within eye vision of where they were. And she just called me in a panic. She said, Tiffany, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. There's my competitors opening. I can see their office from my office. And my response was awesome. What? And I said, that's fantastic. And instilling in her where the principle is, if they open a Motel 6, if you think about it, every hotel is in a hotel zone. Why do they do that? Because they serve different clientele. So if you understand who your ideal client is, you don't have competition. If you know how to speak to them and you know how to message to them, you become the resource. You're the one everybody wants. And so I said, well, that's great. And she was just baffled. I said, ultimately, you'll get business off of them. Do what you do and be the best at it. We already know what your expertise is. We've already started elevating you as far as what you're known for. You're building a great reputation for yourself. You know who your ideal client is. Why would somebody go in a hotel district and pay 3 times more to stay at a Hilton than they'll pay at a Comfort Inn or a Motel 6? All the hotels have beds. They have showers, right? They've got a toilet. It doesn't matter. Why would somebody pay 3 times more to be here? It's because of an experience. So you have to understand that your business is the same. If you want to give them an experience, it really doesn't matter what anybody around you is doing. They're going to keep coming back. And if you have continuity programs in place, members don't shop around. They don't do it. So there's a lot of ways that I see other practices suffer that they're easy pivot points, but people have to hit pain before they're really ready to make a change sometimes.
Very well said. Very well said. Now, I'm curious, where do you think the future of the industry is going?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful. I mean, I think it's just going to completely flourish. Medical aesthetics is growing huge. I do think that people are either going to be very successful with it or they're going to fail in it. I do think there's a lot of stuff taking private equity coming in, but I don't really feel that needs to impact. It just is all in the dynamic. And if you don't know what you're doing and you go and open a business, you're going to hit some pain, and hopefully that pain doesn't close your doors. And it's doing that to a lot of people. But if you're wise and you reach out for educated counsel and you know what resources you have and you get interlinked with them right from the beginning, it can be a beautiful industry. It's growing rapidly. There's a lot of money going into aesthetics. It's not hurting. Everybody says, oh, well, there's certain parts of it that are down about 17% on the average of what people are spending. I'm still growing. I mean, people are literally flying into my clinics and getting procedures done that they can go 5 miles down the road from their house oftentimes and have. You have to diversify yourself. If you want to stand out in this industry, you're just going to have to learn how to diversify yourself and have strategy.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to med spa success, what is your vision for med spa success?
Well, I actually enjoy the personal connection that we get to give a lot of people in med spa success. So I do a lot of public speaking. I talk at a lot of the conferences. I do hold a lot of web classes. This coming Monday, I'm getting ready to do a 3-day immersive event, which is where I will take clinics all the way through my powerful process and through my ScaleX Accelerator. It's a hit hard 3-day course. You plan on being there about 10 hours a day. But it's for the go-getters. And I like working closely and intimately with each practice. I think that's what it is. My vision is to always keep it there. We'll only accept as many clinics as I can work hand in hand with. We have a great team. I'm not the only one in it, but I definitely, we have a powerhouse, and it is customized services that we provide clinics. My whole goal is to teach them how to stand out, and that doesn't come teaching a blank process to everybody. They need help. They need guidance. I take their vision and kind of watch it come to life. And nurture how that comes about. So I plan on Med Spa Success staying a more intimate-based program. I would like to get a lot of my knowledge out. And I have some people that choose to go through Med Spa Success and they kind of do it on a self-guided mode. And that's great. It's good for people that are really wanting to watch their budget, but have good resources at their fingertips and have a great community of other owners they can collaborate with. We provide all of that. But when it comes to the real customized service, I am hoping to work with the biggest go-getters in the med spa industry worldwide.
Awesome. Awesome vision. Now, Tiffany, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, I do want to point people to your website at medspasuccess.org.
Yes.
Now, last question is, what does beauty mean to you?
Ooh, beauty means it's a level of confidence, right? So I feel that beauty comes in different forms. And I think the awesome part about beauty is that when someone feels beauty or they can make someone feel beautiful, the level of confidence that exudes from that is astronomical. And confidence actually relates to success. So it comes in all different shapes, sizes, forms, colors. It's whatever they want. Beauty is what's in the eye of that person and meeting them where they are. But I can tell you that when people go through that shift and they actually feel beautiful, and the confidence, studies have proven across the board, and this isn't new, that confident people are more successful. So it's something that just continues to roll over. And I think beauty is kind of goes straight through that whole aspect. And it doesn't have to be external beauty. It can be internal beauty.
Well, there you have it. Tiffany sharing your expertise. So Tiffany, where can people contact you and the business?
The best point is probably going to be starting on our website, and they will have access to message me. I am on social media. They can find me on Facebook, and we have Med Spa Success on Facebook and Instagram, but also under my personal account is where I tend to collaborate with a lot. So if somebody has a direct question, that might be the best idea to reach out to me there. And that I know my last name is a mouthful, but it's Tiffany Digiuseppe. So Digiuseppe. I promise there won't be too many of us. Should find me pretty easy.
You definitely stand on that sense.
Yeah. But otherwise, medspasuccess.org is going to show you a lot of the platform. And if you just submit an application, basically what I do on there is reach out to you personally. And I set up a meeting, a Zoom with you, and go over what your goals are. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Find out, first of all, if we're even the right fit to work with you and how we can assist you. If not, I'll give you some good pointers on where to go. And if so, then we're building a powerhouse together so we can navigate that.
Awesome. Well, Tiffany, this is amazing. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and sharing your wisdom.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.